the red card. What was your take on it? Freddie Steward getting sent off, was it foul play?
No, not even up for debate.
Should never have been a red card.
Never. And this is the thing, right? Like I sometimes interact with people, right? So you put out a tweet and then you interact with some people who are wrong. I've not interacted with one person because anyone who says that that is a red card, in my opinion, but in other people's opinion who's played the game, and this is where I'm really sorry, Brian O'Driscoll, he had some beautiful glasses on, he looked great. I was very surprised that he said them comments around that it is a red. And I understand, just let's get the safety element out. I understand that part of it, all right? We are all pushing in that direction. Having played the game, and we have been in similar positions, you see players in positions now, you've got to ask yourself, right? And this is where the frustration comes. Someone was like, what do you mean rugby incident? Like, that is a rugby incident. I don't even need to tell you, that's what it is. You've got a play that's unfolded like that, kind of off the cuff, someone who kicks the ball through, and Freddie Steward's running into the line, and he's braced for contact because rugby's a contact sport. I don't even want to go through the mitigation. I don't even want to go through the conversation around the referee. Goody, you can potentially do that. The fact that that has been given a red card, in my mind, especially Jaco Piper, but it's paper, if you want to say specifically, and it's easy to sit at home and be like, right, that isn't. They've got access to everything. They've got an understanding of the game. They know about empathy. They know what a rugby incident is. I just am absolutely baffled that was given a red card. I saw it in slow-mo, and I was like, yes, it looks worse in slow-mo because it's slow motion, but categorically, I would have been surprised with a yellow, but I thought he might just give a yellow because of everything around the player safety in the game. But to send him off in the context of that game, not that it needs to be any context, but the fact that it was a Grand Slam decider, Paddy's weekend, the way that England have played, I looked at that and thought, you fucking wrecked the game. Like, that wrecked the game.
Yeah.
As in, I imagine a lot of people turned off that game when they saw that. And England gave a great account of themselves. That there is a rugby incident. Freddie Steward, you've got to ask yourself, what could he have done? In that moment, at high speed, I don't know. Nothing.
And this is the thing with it. So he had 0.6 seconds from when the ball bounces to actually the contact that happened. 0.6 seconds. So if you remember, Mac Hansen has knocked the ball on. It's gone forward in the offload, right? So he's got every right to go for the ball. He's got every right to accelerate onto it, thinking, I've got a chance here. It's a turnover. And then there's the 0.6 seconds from when the ball bounces to it landing forward into Hugo Keenan's hands. And listen, Ireland win that game whether Freddie Steward is sent off or not. So I'm not an Englishman going, you only won it because of the red card, which people have come at me on Twitter saying that. I haven't said that whatsoever. And even Mac Hansen messaged me going, you sore loser. I was like, come on, mate. You bloody Aussie. But it's one of those things that you feel for Freddie Steward. We know he's not a dirty player. No, that doesn't mean anything in terms of the outcome and all this stuff. But I dive deep into my refereeing phone book friends, and many of them said it is not a red card. And this is the problem with the HCP, head contact process, being boxed into, you go from one box to the next box to the next box. There needs to be empathy with certain things. And if it's an upright headshot in a tackle where you're just going to go and maim someone, then there's no real issue with red cards. But this was an incident where he's accelerated to try and get the ball, and then the ball, because of the odd-shaped rugby ball that it is, has gone into Hugo Keenan's hands. He's then sort of tried to stop, pull out a little bit, twist, and it's an unfortunate accident. And actually, you could have found mitigation by the height of Hugo Keenan when he actually makes the contact with Freddie Steward's arm or elbow or whichever point you look at. So horrendous call, absolutely wrong from Jaco Piper. It's one of those things that, did it ruin the game? Sometimes works in different ways. I'm sure it spurred England on a little bit just before half time. But, you look at some of the tries and how they came about. A lot of Ireland's good stuff in the second half came from really intelligent kicks from Johnny Sexton into the space, and they went, there was a crossfield kick that they end up pushing over. I think it was Anthony Watson, get the scrum that leads to
He was
Henshaw's try, yeah. And it's just clever play. So you find in space, you go down the short side a couple of times. And then you've got Sheehan's second try from the offload, which is again down the short side, where you would have had a winger, but because you've played with your back three because your fullback's gone, it's different. And then also the very last try when you break out, Rob Herring breaks out from that line out, and there's 3 tries from losing a player. But clever from Ireland, Jaco Piper, hang your head in shame because it's never a red card.
And the interesting thing about all this will be the fact that he's up for committee, or has been cited, because that's what happens when you get a red card on Tuesday, and whether the social media influence of all this to stick with Jaco Piper will be a 2-week ban or a 3-week ban. And you look at some of the red cards that we've seen, proper high shots. Mohamed Hawes gets 3 weeks for a headbutt where he comes across for the counter ruck. I don't know how they will look at that out of principle, the fact that we've called them out, the Rugby Pod, Jim and Goody, and we have that much influence. But that is one of them where I know it's easy to go straight online, and that's how we interact around it, to call out the referee. But I just thought he was so much better than that. And that's a big statement, because in a game of such magnitude, and it was because of everything that was England in, I think about that. That could have been, I know it wasn't, that could have been a Six Nations Grand Slam decider. That could have been a World Cup final. And if that decision is happening in a game like that, because they're seeing it that way, then that needs to change. Like, we need to call that out. And that's the reason why I've got frustration over it. I like Freddie Steward. I wanted Ireland to win the Grand Slam. I think it's a good thing going into the World Cup with the emotion around it. The fact that we're in Dublin last week,
you're English.
The way that they've played. I'm quarter English, and that's what people were saying. Oh, he's English. He's not even Scottish. He's English. That's why he's so pissed off. Got nothing to do with that, lads. Absolutely not. Just look at the bios of the people that are coming at me. They're the same people. I think they might be the same people.
But it's interesting. You talk about the judicial process now, and this happened to me. So rewind your minds back to when I got sent off for Worcester Warriors against Leicester Tigers.
Judas'ing Crofty.
Well, this is the thing, right?
That was Judas.
But this was a drop ball. So I'm covering across, waddling across the backfield. Crofty has got, I think it was Ed Slater, tried to give him an offload, and it's gone behind him, so he's dropped it. And I've got 0.5 seconds to react. So I'm just thinking shoulder Crofty square in the face, because he used to dangle McDonald's over me when I wasn't allowed to beat them and he was, because they were trying to put weight on him. But actually, I went to my judicial hearing and I thought, I'm done here. Like, I'm getting 2 or 3 weeks. I needed one more start in my contract for Worcester to get a bonus, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get banned. And we're in the hearing, and one of the judicial officers has sat there and said, Andy, what are you doing with your left hand there? So I've gone right shoulder into his mush, but my left hand is here like this, held up. And he's like,
I thought you had big hands in that, Goody. You got small hands, though.
And he said, you look like you're trying to stop yourself and brace yourself there. I said, sir, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I got away with it. So he was like, the red card is enough. You don't need a ban for this one. So hopefully common sense prevails and Freddie Steward doesn't get a ban. Ireland is still celebrating today.
Pod. Rugby Pod.